Hello, friends, and welcome back to our makeshift booths here for the Team Draft Super League. I'm Kenji Numatanami Yagashira, joined by Jamie Park. Jamie Park, you just won versus Marshall. How do you feel?
Gigantic mize is how I feel.
A gigantic mize. You said it was something to do with the posters in your background. Can you explain what those are?
Oh, yeah. So one of Marshall's favorite cards, just in general, is anything that's a creature and bounces something else. So I distracted him with this, free Manowar giveaway over here.
Understand.
And then I got a quote from LSD beforehand that he said, "What an opportunity indeed." So it's got to be a real deal.
I think you mind tricked him because he decided to stinging shot post blocks after his exerted creature attacked. I don't understand. You must have been super happy when he did that play.
That worked out okay. Yeah.
Because then later in the game, he drew that Defiant Great Maw, 2 power. You were at like 3 or 4 health. If he had been down to 1 life, which you should have been, I imagine, then you would have had to chump with your Kenra, and maybe something happens. Like the last turn of the game, he drew the green cartouche, the cartouche of strength, which might have swung the game dramatically had he still had a creature and not had to chump. So, but overall, that's the first win. You are number one.
I'll take it. Also, I guess he had a fan bear in his hand the whole game. Is that right?
No, it was just an image.
Not that matters. Okay,
don't worry about it. It was all good. Next up for round 3, we have Paul Humph Cheon versus Chris Pakula. I'm sorry, just Chris Pakula. I managed to beat him off camera with the old Manticore flicker at play. I see that you have a Manticore in your deck.
Yeah,
where were you seated?
Really jealous right now because we have all the Manticores.
Right. Where were you sitting during the draft, by the way? Do you know who was on each side of you?
You and Paul, I believe. Yeah. I was sitting in between you and Paul. I was passing to you. No, actually, no. Marshall was on my right.
Okay, so you were passing to me.
I was passing to you. Yes.
Yeah, I was not happy with the end result of my deck. It's more like red-white filler stuff, and turns out you're playing red-white as well. Yeah. So I think you did a good job team drafting. I might not have done so good of a job.
I guess. I'm actually not even certain. It was one of those, I don't know, if we look back at the draft, like my pack had a very easy first pick, but after that, there really wasn't, I wasn't sure. Like I thought the next best card in the pack of a single color was Emberhorn Minotaur, but honestly, that could be swayed by any of your first picks. If you took anything that was white or black and could go into zombies, you could be the Wayward Servant.
Sure.
So I really wasn't sure what you were. I guessed ever so slightly, that you'd be more likely to be red than average. But that was about all I had to go off of, and I kind of just drafted what was open to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, and that was a good call. I did take that Emberhorn Minotaur, and my red is lackluster, but fine. But if we take a look at our next decks, so Chris Pakula versus Paul Cheon, Chris is on a kind of a 3-color main blue-green with a splash of a Deemworthy. He's got some nice ones in his deck. Let's see here. He's got a Crocodile of the Crossing, Curator of Mysteries, Greater Sandworm. So his creatures are going to be a lot bigger than Paul's, but Paul's deck, have you seen it yet?
Oh, I got smashed by his round 1. It wasn't even remotely close. It was a beating of epic proportions. Yeah, I mean, Chris's deck is unique. I don't think, we haven't done a ton of drafts, but sure. he sort of said this is new to him as well. And I think it's got, like you said, some powerful cards. If he makes it to the late game, I think he can be okay. But Paul has just got, if Paul has a draw that curves out, it's going to be very tough for Chris to sort of establish a board presence, I think.
Yeah, and I'm hoping Paul pulls off the Liliana's Mastery, which Chris later on said he should have taken and hate drafted during the draft, because that is a real nice one in Paul's deck.
Yeah, I didn't look at the drafts yet. I'm not sure if he should have. Have you seen the drafts?
I haven't seen the draft viewer, but I know Chris passed the Liliana's Mastery when he had the opportunity to take it. So.
Yeah. He told me before my first round, did you see Mastery? I was like, nope. It was like, all right, well, good luck.
Yeah, so you guys said you didn't do, or you haven't done many team drafts of this format at all? Well, I guess that's probably the same for us. But how many team drafts have you done in general in your lifetime? You know, is it over 30, over 50, over?
The number of team drafts I've done before the year 2000 is way, way, way more than the number of team drafts I've done after the year 2000.
Okay.
Let me put it that way.
But you've got at least the play skill and the memories of how to do it. Because I think going into this, Marshall and I are the true underdogs of this pro scene. Of course, Paul has some pro chops, but
yeah. Paul has some experience for sure. I think team drafting has changed a lot over the years. I think the sets that I used to first team draft with were way more shallow in colors, so you would end up with a lot more really sketchy cards in your deck. Now the sets are like deeper in their colors, so it's kind of hard to really, really completely train wreck somebody unless they're like really actively like counter drafting like Ben Stark was in the previous draft. So you don't see that quite as much, but the general strategy is still there. You're still trying to make this balance between trying to take the cards that are best for your deck versus taking cards that are best for what you think your opponents around you are drafting. So those general concepts are still there.
Yeah, there's actually a ton of heated debate about Ben S's draft last week. A lot of pros weighing in. I don't know. What side of the fence are you on? Do you think he did it well, or do you think he was just all over the place?
I think his seat was definitely really difficult. I don't think any of his picks are like totally crazy. I think his seat was very, very difficult. One thing I will say, though, is that I don't have a strong opinion on any of his picks. I think like they are debatable. I don't think that any of his picks are the correct or not correct, not close. I'll put it that way.
Fair enough. All right, well, it sounds like the matches are ready, so let's go down to the next match between Paul Cheon and Chris Pakula. Stay tuned. Welcome back here to Team Draft Super League. We are in round 3. Limited resources team currently up 3-1 over Gamers, Helping Gamers. Let's take a look at these hands, and what do you see, Jamie?
See a mulligan from Pakula. Do we know who's first or on the draw?
It looks like that's a good question. I'm not actually sure. Oh, okay. Well, they both kept their hands.
They both kept their hands. Looks like Paul in the play. Paul's hand, he definitely needs a white mana. Chris kept? Okay.
He had a River Serpent to cycle, but he hit the forest stuff that's up.
All right. Okay, so Chris actually in good shape. I didn't see the cycle in the River Serpent.
So we're gonna need Paul to hit a white source here real quick.
All right, so one of our outs here is just Paul doesn't draw mana he needs.
All right, Chris on a roll though. There's another land for him, and right off the top, a Plains on turn 3. That is exactly what we were looking for.
That's definitely what Cheon needed to see there. Doesn't necessarily need to play any of his mummies this turn, but he just definitely needed it for his deck to operate. He needed any in the next this turn or the next couple turns after, but he got it right away. So that's gonna help him go rocking and rolling here. But Chris has got a lot of really big, powerful cards, and this Weaver of Currents is going to ramp him up pretty good, except for Spun Wagon. He's not really going to allow that to happen here.
Yeah, the players have access to the deck list, so Paul knows that Weaver of Currents is one of the best cards in Chris's deck. He has
for sure
not too many low drops. The low drops that he does have are going to be like 2 Initiate's Companion and like a Skirmisher. So a lot of X1 small creatures. He really want to ramp to that top end, which you can see in his hand currently.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good play by Paul to get rid of the ramp creature and deny Chris that mana ramp. So we're probably going to see some good board development from Paul this turn.
What's your opinion on Kefnit the Mindful? Because I'm not a big fan of that in Limited, but Chris has opted to
I'm gonna go with samesies. Not a huge fan. But Chris does have a lot of mana sources in deck. He's got, I think, 2 mana ramp creatures and 16 lands with a bunch of cycling. So he can definitely get enough mana sources out where he can use the special ability and make the Mindful like a good blocker. Like you can have like lots of board states where you have 5 cards in hand on defense, and they just can't attack you if you have 4 mana.
Ooh, Paul with a Wayward Servant off the top.
Jeez.
And actually, I'm a little bit surprised Chris is getting this aggressive versus Paul, but maybe he realizes he can't beat the synergy in the long game anyways, and just has to kind of crush.
Yeah, there's a chance that Chris is just thinking that his best chance of winning is to just up the variance as much as possible and try and. But yeah, I mean, Paul's deck just might be too good, no matter what happens here.
Yeah, and the fact that Paul gets to play 2 spells this turn, allowing the Grim Strider to become a 4/4 attack passive companion, and Chris already falls down to 9, drawing that Deem Worthy for the turn, looking a little sad.
Yeah, not great, Bob. Yeah, Paul's deck just looks absolutely. I think someone said in the chat earlier that it looks like a constructed deck. Looks like the deck that won the Pro Tour.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Start to finish now. Whew. The hits keep
might
coming.
as well start to finish.
Double triggered by his second Binding. I feel so bad too. During the draft, I took 2 Binding Mummies, which are in my deck, and they would have gone right past John into Paul's hands. But
oh yeah, for sure, John wouldn't have touched those. I don't think. I mean, unless there was absolutely nothing for his deck.
Yeah, I'm enjoying these team drafts.
Team draft is one of the most fun formats. I wish there was more of it. When I heard there was a team draft super league with team draft, I was just super excited. Just that it existed and to be a part of it is just awesome. Your Ben Stark talked about every single day he could, he would team draft when he was first started playing Magic, and a lot of the older guys grew up playing this format, not only as a way to just sort of like get used to all the cards, but also like just a way to hang out with their friends and sort of just have fun playing the game.
Yeah, that's so cool too. All right, so Paul quickly takes down that game, ending off with a start to finish to reduce his hand size by 1, putting Chris to 1, and Chris saw the writing on the wall, scooped him up. Let's take a look at sideboarding here. Kind of hard to tell what Chris might want to do.
Yeah. So let's take a look at what Chris might do.
I see a few cancels he could bring in for the more powerful cards like Liliana's Mastery, although it looks like he didn't opt to change too much up.
No, we actually cancel was the last card we cut from his deck. And I think Cheon's deck is just far too streamlined to have that. I mean, it may be on the play, but I certainly don't think he's going to have it on the draw after this game if he actually brings it to a third game.
Yeah. So here we go for game 2. Both players have pretty nice hands. Chris with an opening hand of enough lands and some top-end cards, but a Naga Vitalist to really push through to that late game. Paul with an early Wayward Servant, which is going to enable all of those mummies, and he does have that Liliana's Mastery that we were talking about too.
Yeah. I think so. Chris's draw has some of the more powerful top-end cards, but he's got a big gap in terms of like his curve here. He doesn't have any 3s, 4s, or 5s. So he's, unless he draws something, he's kind of not really going to have too much going on next turn.
I'm excited to see this Unburden from Paul, if it can snag one of those crazy cards.
And that big gap for what Chris has in his hand right now is going to be backbreaking with that Unburden. I mean, even just if you cast it now, it's still going to be backbreaking. Even if it just gets lands.
Right. Exactly. Let's see Paul's hand here. He's weighing his options. Looks like he's going to go with the Binding Mummy over Splendid Agony or Unburden. Initiate's Companion for Chris is not going to look very good versus the Splendid Agony hitting both X1s, but that does leave Chris with 6 lands next turn if Paul makes that play.
This is just brutal. I mean, he's going to get 2 for 1 from the Splendid Agony, and then he's going to get his best cards ripped from his hand from the Unburden. Yeah, I mean, everything is just coming out Cheon's right now.
Oh, the old lucky Cheons. So do you make that play if you're Paul? Do you just Splendid Agony the 2 X1s here?
I think it's fine. It certainly allows him to get some attacks in. I mean, at this point, we also have deck lists, so he could look at, does Chris have anything he can do right now with 3 mana open? Doesn't really have anything. I guess he could have Spidery Grass, but that, that still is fine to do the Splendid Agony. I think it would have Splendid Agony the 2 1 toughness creatures and get in there.
Looks like Paul just passed, and Chris gets to play his Angler Drake here on turn 5, which is going to set up for a nice Unburden.
It is indeed. I wonder what Chris is going to bounce here. He's probably
the servant.
Yeah, the servant back. He's trying to think. What would he rather? Given he's going to attack here, Chris is wondering what he would rather have Paul block with. So he'd rather have Paul, trade off with his money here.
Mm-hmm. And we do see the Splendid Agony. So what would you rate Chris's deck versus what would you rate Paul's deck?
Paul's deck is like you've drafted the format more than I have, so you probably know better. I guess that Paul's deck is, somewhere between, if I would make a wide market, 8 at 9.5, probably call it 8.5.
Sure, yeah.
Something like that. I think Chris's deck is probably, it's just a deck I'm so unfamiliar with. It looks like, slightly above average, but, not amazing.
Yeah, that seems like fair.
Yeah.
All right, with that Unburden taking that Lay Claim and Bitterblade Warrior, sets up nicely for Paul's next turn. He has a few options. He can even afford to take a few hits from the Angler Drake if he really wants to and just keep it developing out his board.
Yeah, he's got a nice cushion. He's at 21 life.
And this snow attack by Chris is going to become real bad when the Liliana's Mastery enters. 4 triggers going to enter the battlefield.
That's a lot of triggers.
Stack. Too many triggers for me.
All
right, so maybe this is the time where we start looking at what Chris can draw to come back from this.
Right, I think, it's one of the cards that would be really good for him to draw is a card he can't even cast right now. is Deem Worthy. He doesn't have any red sources to cycle Deem Worthy and get some card advantage and maybe draw just some parlay into some other cards, but he doesn't even have that right now. He doesn't have any red mana.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything Chris can draw here? It's not looking very good. Yeah, he needs to deal with these. He needs to deal with either the Binding Mummy or the Wayward Servant. Otherwise, he's just going to lose to just Paul casting any card in his deck.
Right. Starts finished. Takes care of the Angler Drake, making all of the 3/3s able to attack pretty nicely here into Chris's conveniently multiple of 3 life, 9. All right, a chump and a trade. Chris falls down to 6, and yeah, that's probably all she wrote, as a River Serpent is not going to provide enough blockers or removal.
No, that's gonna be it.
And Paul's going to take it down in a quick 2 games. So now Limited Resources is up 4-1. Congratulations to you.
Defeated.
Congratulations to you for winning that one match. I think we have at least one more match to go, depending on the results of Marshall and John, who are currently playing. If we do to a round 4, it'll be Paul Cheon versus John Finkel. And then after that, it would be Marshall versus Chris. But that's a quick wrap-up of Paul Cheon versus Chris Pakula as the zombies take down the blue-green ramp.
If we happen to get 3 more wins in a row, then it's you and me in the finals.
That's true. That would be That would be most excellent. Athena, is Marshall and John still playing currently, or do we have the results of that? Okay. So it looks like we will get the continuation of Marshall and John in just a moment as we set up those matches. I'm not sure what game they're on, but it could be that Marshall wins the game here, and that would be this week's Team Draft Super League, as that would put limited resources up to 5, the requisite amount to take it down completely. And we saw Marshall's deck against yours in the last match. How do you think he fares versus John's? I had a chance to play against John's earlier, and he's on like red, blue, aggressive.
Right. So John's red, blue, mid-range aggro, and Marshall is black, green, -1 counters for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm. Seems right.
Let's see. Well, Marshall's deck, I think it's. I'm going to take a close look at John's deck.
Yeah, and John's got some surprisingly good red cards for being past red downstream from not only you to me. So I guess two down the row, red drafters. He's got 2 Cartouche of Zeal, 2 Magma Spray, a Deemworthy, a few nice red creatures in the form of Emberhorn Minotaur. Like, I think John has a good chance of just overrunning Marshall, and there is like that lone limits of solidarity to kind of active trees in one of Marshall's big creature if he stabilizes.
John's deck doesn't look like it matches up all that well against Marshall, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think you're right. I think John needs to have a nice, aggressive, curved out draw. That would definitely help him. And I think Marshall's deck is, if he curves out, is well suited to just establish and have creatures that, like, on each part of the curve slightly outclass what John has, but it's very draw dependent, I think.
Well, it looks like we get to see what happens as the match is ready, so let's go down for Marshall Sutcliffe and John Finkel. Back for the Team Draft Super League, John F. Finkel, you know what the F stands for, versus Marshall Sutcliffe. They are on game 3, so this could be the deciding game for...
This could be it.
This could be it. I'm looking at Marshall's hand, and I'm looking at John's hand, and I like John's, but Marshall does have the tools. He did find that forest.
Yeah, John's hand looks really awesome and exciting, but I think Marshall's hand is better. I think Marshall's hand has just better creatures. Usually you can just play creatures and just win the game with that. John's hand doesn't really do a whole lot.
Even better, it looks like Marshall's on the play here. So if he does hit that 4th land, Ornery Kudu into Quarry Hauler, and he actually has 2 of both, so we could see a very quick start from Marshall.
Yeah, if Marshall draws a land here, it's going to be. It seems like it's going to be pretty tough for John to. I mean, his hand can't really be aggressive, and he's on the draw. And Marshall's hand looks like it's, I mean, if he draws a land especially, it's just going to curve out really nicely.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't look great for John. It looks like he's deciding between the Seeker and the Entangler. Maybe he just thinks that he might need to start with the Seeker in order to sort of smooth out his draw a little bit. He might just think he doesn't have a good chance of establishing a good aggro, so he needs to draw into some more defensive cards to have a chance here.
All right, Shafet Monitor off the top for Marshall. That is not a 4th land, but he still has another draw at it. We'll see what John can do to kind of stabilize here. He does have the possibility to loot quite a bit of cards with the Seeker of Insight and the 3 non-creature spells he has in his hand.
Yeah, no, he can definitely dig a little bit deeper here, and I expect him to probably try and this turn he's going to play Entangler and maybe buff up another creature. Yeah, so he's going to maybe use that to Maybe, okay, maybe he's going to be aggressive here.
I don't know. He's not attacking with the Secret of Insight, so if any damage, it'll be 3. I like that, though. I think the 1 damage is not worth getting rid of those excess lands. And
for sure, you got to do a little bit of both. Yes, you got to do a little bit of both. Right? You got to dig a little bit deeper and sort of get some damage through. Got to do a little bit of both for the game plan there for him. Yeah, no, Marshall didn't draw a land, so he's kind of stuck playing another Cooter this turn, it looks like.
Well, Defiant Great Maw was his draw, so that might be the better play, right? Because then he gets to remove the counter from his Bitterblade Warrior, too.
For sure.
Defiant Great Maw. Actually, huge synergy with Marshall's deck. I didn't really realize that at first glance, but...
Yeah, Marshall's deck has a ton of synergy. I didn't see you drew the Great Maw yet.
It looks like he is going to play that Great Maw. Put the counters on itself, removes a counter from another creature, that being the Bitterblade Warrior.
Yep.
All right, good old-fashioned race here. We'll see if John wants to keep up with that. Pretty good attack. Oh, he is exerting here. Okay, I guess it's a 3-2 otherwise.
Yeah, so he's going to get in.
Knock Marshall down 13.
Plays the Hyena Pack and passes the turn here.
That's the 4th land for Marshall, but I think I'm scared for Marshall because the blue cartouche could do some real work. We'll have to hope that if Marshall draws his stinging shot post blue cartouche, he uses it at the correct time.
Oh man! See, I don't even have to give beats. You're giving Marshall beats.
Yeah, I know I'm not supposed to harp on my own team here, but come on, Marshall. We were going for the 5-row sweep, man. It's just.
Oh, thank God! Yeah, that would have been. There's nothing more embarrassing than a Hawaii 5-0.
All right, just the Bitterblade Warrior bashing in here. John probably not going to take that trade.
Nope.
This format's interesting because the exert mechanic really makes it so people don't want to block. You're kind of just trading blows for a while.
Yeah. And I think you're right. John has a real chance of sort of stealing the game by, evading through Marshall's board here with that blue cartouche. We'll see how he plays it out here.
I'm not sure he runs it out this turn, though, as his follow-up plays don't really block well against what Marshall has.
No. That would just, I can't play on the Hyena Pack this turn. He would just get demolished on the counterattack.
I guess he could play it defensively, which is what we might be seeing. All right, yep.
Sure. Not offensively, but defensively it makes sense.
Watchers of the Dead, the draw from the cartouche trigger. Yeah, this is still anybody's game here. Now remember, this is game 3, everybody watching at home, so if Marshall wins, that will put Team Limited Resources up to 5. And I think that would be the biggest sweep of the Team Draft Super League thus far.
Yeah, that would be. Well, I think we had was it 5-3 last week.
I think it was 5-2, but
5-2? Okay. The Glory Bringer.
Right. Exactly. I think our packs were definitely a lot weaker than last week's draft.
Yeah. I was going to the draft thinking, all right, I'm going to do my best to evaluate all of the cards, make sure that I'm not passing too much. But I never felt like I was, especially the first pack. I never felt like I was passing anything crazy.
Right.
From a defensive standpoint, the drafts the previous 2 weeks were definitely more interesting, especially last week.
Yeah, I think last week was very bomb dependent, whereas here we're banking on a lot of commons and uncommons, and I mean all of the good ones in one archetype we saw go to Paul, but otherwise it's kind of spread out on the power level of the decks.
Yeah. No, last week there was a lot of both LSV and Efro had awesome rare picks, and they followed up with cards in their same color because Efro's was especially easy because he passed the Dustwalker, but LSV took the red bear, the red rare bear.
The Harsh Mentor.
Harsh Mentor, and that was it was good to protect his rare there. That that was like, one of those picks where you could take a card from your opponent, but he wanted to maximize his power level of his deck and maximize his chance of playing his Glory Bringer. So we can see hate draft there.
All right, John tanked a little bit there, decides not to attack, and plays out the Watcher of the Dead. I'm not seeing really any good attacks here for Marshall. Not with that 4/5 Hyena.
Hyena's really, yeah.
Notably, the Seeker of Insight left back and not looting last turn.
The synergy of Marshall's deck. Look at all his creatures. This is incredible. How many -1 counters does he put on creatures and taken off? He's taken off 3 -1 counters. It's crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately for Team Limited Resources, he's bricked by a 4/5 currently. Things that Marshall could draw. He has a splashed impeccable timing with the white source he does have. Splendid Agony he hasn't used. A Stinging Shot, of course, now that the Hyena has flying. But he also has a Cartouche of Strength, a Cruel Reality, although he's 2 men off of that. A Trial of Solidarity.
Trial. Yeah, the white trial would be pretty
That
crazy.
would be amazing.
So John's going to dig for 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he found a 2-drop. Not bad. Not bad.
So the question here is, are you done after this? The 4/5 is kind of necessary here.
Yeah, I think he probably holds back. But
probably holds back, yeah. That's what's tough about playing the blue Cartouche on the Hyena pack. But he had to. He was kind of torn, I'm sure, a little bit because it was his way to maybe steal a game and evade through, but also that 5 toughness is really, really proving very difficult for Marshall right now.
Yep. We'll see if Marshall can find anything to bust through or... Well, okay, that's pretty good.
Jeez.
That's actually very good, as 1 attack from the Decimator Beetle is going to make the Hyena pack 3/4.
That 5 toughness we were just talking about is going to be evaporated by 1 on his next attack, which is going to make it really difficult for John to block on the following turn here.
And it's still going to be up to Marshall to make good attacks, because he could very well make some YOLO attack, just throw them all in, and John could surprise on the backswing.
What's the term for that? Flunge?
Flunge, yes.
Just throw them all in there?
Just right-click attack all, LOL.
Do you have to LOL?
You have to. You have to.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's part of the process. I wasn't sure. I need to...
Unfortunately, we don't get to hear Marshall's LOL, but we can do it here in the booth.
We can imagine it. We can imagine it.
It's what we're for.
I'm sure it's like a giggle because he's just like, whatever. I'm playing against John. I'm just gonna get in there. Hopefully this works.
All right, land the draw for John, and I think he might be attacking here. He's going to combat. He might realize that the Hyena is no longer as useful with the Decimator Beetle on the battlefield.
That's right.
Okay.
So he's going to get in with that. Does he do anything else? No. So he gets into 9 and plays Ceradon. And then just sort of says, all right, Marshall, it's up to you. Ball's in your court. You have to attack. You have to attack me.
White trial 1 time. Darn. Just another kudu. How many kudus does he have? 3?
He's got 3, I think. Yeah, I think he has 3 kudus.
He does have 3. Okay, 3 kudus, 2 quarry haulers, 2 defiant great maws,
and 2 defiant great maws. Marshall's creatures are just nuts.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But John's got has a reasonable cushion here with not crazy, but enough where he can still make it difficult for Marshall to attack with everybody flunges, as we were just saying, because there's enough double blocks where you can trade 1 inferior creature in a double block for 1 of Marshall's better creatures, and take some damage and still be on the brink, but still maybe have some profitable exchanges. We'll see what Marshall ends up attacking with here. It's not clear.
Yeah, I think it's a certainty that Marshall attacks. We'll see where they line up.
Is it the full fledged? Full?
Not quite. Not quite. All right.
I don't know.
The problem with Marshall leaving back, well, only a few blockers. I think John has
one creature after combat. He's got to worry about the counter attack.
Oh my! All right. So he's going to send everything but the kudu in.
Get in there.
See what kind of trades need to be made. So at least 2 creatures have to block if I'm reading the board correctly.
Let's see. Or,
Sorry,
yes.
at least 3. No.
Yes.
2.
There's only 3 creatures can get.
Right.
So you have to block 3 creatures. Yeah. So the Nefcrob is going to trade 1 for 1.
Oh, it looks like we're just getting mono trades over here.
And so the Seeker and the Watchers is the type of block I was talking about, where he's going to trade either a 1/3 or a 2/2 for Marshall's 4/3. The rest of the creatures are just sort of trading off across the board.
Yeah.
And Marshall's going to get 4 damage through. This exchange looks decent for John. I think John is actually looking decent here at this board state.
Yeah, I think that's
the Labyrinth Guardian and play another 2-drop on his turn and still attack in for 4.
right. Exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure I like that result for team limited resources, and the even initiates means that Marshall's going to be on a 2-turn clock here.
Yep. So how does Marshall pull out of this? It probably involves
Stinging shot.
Stinging shot, yeah. All right, a stinging shot. What is white try? So presumably John is playing the initiate and the skirmisher and attacking for 4.
Right.
So Marshall is going to have 1 turn to top deck. If he, he's at 7, so John would have to block. Would you have to chump block? No, he wouldn't. Yeah, you have to.
Just the Great Maw, I think.
Yeah, block one of the Great Maw, and you have to worry about any tricks from Marshall. Marshall has no real buffer tricks. He's got Splendid Agony, Impeccable Timing, and Stinging Shot, but no +2/+2s.
How about a Dune Beetle?
Dune Beetle, he's pretty good. Old Bellingham,
Yeah, holds counter as well, but not what Marshall was looking to draw here.
Wow, what a tight game! What a tight game!
Oh, that's true. Humph in chat points out he can cycle the Shafet Monitor for Stinging Shot. There we go.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
I think that's his only out. Oh no, Impeccable Timing would also. Oh no, see I guess it doesn't matter, right? He can cycle for any land.
If he knows, he has a couple planes. I don't know. Yeah, if he knows he has to cycle the monitor, leaving the planes open to get a forest or.
Right, exactly. Well, at least we hope he knows. We'll see what Marshall actually opts to do.
Let's see.
All right, clean little 2-for-1 there.
John's feeling safe with the block. He knows that Marshall doesn't have any buff instance.
Right, and not many that would pump for 3 anyways there. All right. Oh, wait, he's just passing. He's giving himself 1 fewer out here by not doing it main phase and playing the land. All right.
Does the monitor bring the land into
play? Oh, no, wait.
Play?
Oh, I'm sorry. It puts the land into play, right?
So he's, maybe I honestly don't know. I think it does, but I'm not positive.
You're right. It does. It's on the battlefield.
Okay.
All right.
So
he does have a second planes as well, so that's okay.
Yeah, I think I saw a second plane. Okay, yeah. So here we go. Top deck. No.
Belch. Not going to do it. And it looks like John Finkel is going to take the match 2-1 over Marshall Sutcliffe.
Wow.
Kind of evening out a little bit. Now score 4-2 in favor of Team Limited Resources. That means you guys get another match. And as I mentioned earlier, next up we are going to have Paul versus John. That's not who you guys want to see us send to the gauntlet. Paul's got that.
Oh, boy, yeah. Send in the big guns real quick. Well, if we somehow survive this match, then maybe it's just like Dumb and Dumber. You're saying there's a chance.
Saying there's a chance. All right, so
saying there's a chance. I don't know.
I think we're going to go to a quick commercial break as we set up for Paul Cheon and John Finkel. I'm going to stay in the booth along with Chris Pakula. I'm going to be joined by Chris Pakula. But thank you, Jamie, for co-hosting with me. Stay tuned, friends, for the next round of Team Draft Super League. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for a challenge? Magic